Welcome to the Convertium AI podcast, Grit and Growth, where we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming construction, real estate, and asset management. Today's episode is all about how AI is reshaping growth and strategy in construction and asset management. I'm joined by Nils Gransberg, Vice President of Operation at Gransberg Associates, Inc. Nils has a diverse background in spanning project delivering, consulting, academia, and military leadership, but I'll let him share more about that directly. Welcome to the show. I really appreciate you coming on. What can you tell us about yourself and your background and what brings you here today?
Well, thanks for having me, Jessica. It's great getting a chance to chat with you here today, and excited about talking about some shared interest topics. My background is kind of all over the place. I think I've taken the longest route possible to get to where I'm at. But where we do we specialize in project delivery, complex project management, capital programs, and I think with technology, recent pretty significant breakthroughs in accessibility to large language model tools have really opened up the potential for us to be able to increase the amount of good data that we can have to make decisions, as well as reduce the amount of time that it takes to get to points where we to develop the information we need to make good decisions. And I think just from a macro perspective, we're just starting to scratch the surface on being able to really be able to generate some incredible, some really incredible products that help us get really smart really fast, without having to spend all the time and all the legwork digging around and the nug work. So
the dirty work.
Yeah, like everybody loves to talk about the cool shiny stuff, and but when it gets down to it, if you don't have the tools to be able to automate some of your workflows and some of the data analyses and whatnot, it's hours and hours and hours of cleaning and sorting and making sure that information you got works, and then being able to iterate it through models. And these kind of tools really just it takes all that out of the
takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
It takes all the fun out of it.
It really does.
Sucks the marrow out of it. Well, that brings us to our first question. From your perspective, how is AI currently impacting construction and asset management strategy? More so for you, your construction, as opposed to assets.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, I think it's, like I said, I think we're really just starting to scratch the surface. Over the last couple of years, having access to, ChatGPT, that first kind of hit the market, and then some of these other GPTs that have started to catch up as well. I think what we're starting to see more of are proprietary GPTs that are being developed by firms, using those to do things like automate contract development, being able to assist with risk identification, risk management. So being able to look at, being able to use some open source or proprietary data and look back and say, okay, what things have happened in the past, and are there trends, and being able to do some of that really high level trend analysis really quickly as you pull up some of these things that, I think some of the most interesting ones are the non sequiturs, where you wouldn't have necessarily thought, something was an actual risk and what it wasn't, and so one of them, like we've seen, was with, the perception of, NEPA processes, the environmental permitting and whatnot. Owners have this perception that NEPA is this really big, risky process, and actually it turns out it's not very risky. It's just long.
Long and tedious.
So I mean, when you look at what's the risk of not getting your NEPA approval, it's fairly low, and it's a known process. It's laborious. It takes time, but it's not something that really contributes to the risk. That's the kind of thing you'll see. You're doing some of these enhanced, risk analyses and whatnot,
Mhm.
where you're using some of these tools to be able to dig through and look at trends and say, okay, what actually moves the needle?
Mhm.
And I think in my field, looking at, we deal with, really big capital programs for public clients. When you've got a, 3, 4, $5 billion program,
Mhm.
being able to identify, what those sorts of risks, and really eliminate the ones that aren't risks, so you can get better at focusing on how much actual contingency you need to maintain to manage that risk, and then being able to be able to actively move through and retire it, really improves your overall performance, because the amount of money that we lock up just trying to cover risks is enormous. And a lot of times you find yourself at the end of a project, where either you've got a whole bunch of extra money left in contingency that you thought you needed and you didn't actually need, as opposed to where maybe we've blown that, now we didn't do enough. On the other end of it is, if I've got too much lane in there, that money could have gone to something else. It could have gone to another project. It could have gone to enhanced life cycle performance. It could have gone to some other thing, where, as opposed to just sitting there, being unused. So this, like I said, just kind of starting to scratch the surface. And I think, when we look at some of these kinds of tools being developed, in a supporting role, they can really help with improving your decision making
Mhm.
capability. And the best decisions are made with good information.
Yep.
Better information makes for better decisions.
Exactly. I talked to the CEO of CR Equity yesterday, and they do massive lending on a large scale, developments and everything else. And he has created his own system for underwriting, and like it basically supplements his team. It does underwriting, risk management, all of that stuff, like instantly. What would take him, a couple of weeks to underwrite these huge billion-dollar deals is taking them, a couple hours with the use of the AI that he's implemented. It's super interesting that what they could do. Another thing that he pointed out to me that I really liked is smart contracts. So, obviously when you're doing a development, you get your draws, schedules, and all that good stuff. And a lot of the time it's contingent on an owner releasing payment or a milestone being hit. And sometimes in real life, you can hit your milestone and then all of a sudden the owner's like, well, I want this change, and this change. And I'm not going to pay you until I get it. Well, the blockchain technology creates that fail-safe system of, this has been achieved. You got your inspection or you got your pass. You get paid regardless who's at the other end of it. There is no button to be pushed. That blockchain just creates that contract, and that contract is basically God. And I think that's amazing for construction, and I can't wait to implement that to move forward with other people.
Tokenization is really interesting tool, and I haven't really dealt with it a lot, actually. So I've you mentioned I've got on the academic side as well. So I'm a reviewer for a couple of journals, and last year I got one that was a research study on that, looking at smart contracts for mega projects, and it was really, really compelling. I think you look at the one of the big challenge in construction is uncertainty.
Yep.
So we always try to drive to make things more certain. So if that's why I got into what I do. I mean, collaborative delivery is a lot of fun, because we're trying to do is figure out different ways to work together and make things successful, as opposed to the old, let's go out and accuse each other of, and slander each other's names and talk, say bad things about each other's ancestry and whatnot, and treat each other like thieves and scoundrels, right? And when we really don't need to, and if you got the right kind of people, the right tools, right project, you can get around a lot of that stuff and be able to have better projects. So it's like finding tools that then can help support that, and with that, you can't collaborate without certainty, without trust. And so having a tool like a smart contract is just one more thing, I think, that's potentially, we'll probably see it more in the private sector first than we will in the public. I think it's going to be a while till it hits public sector, but that things move either at the glacial speed and then in the public world, and then it's an avalanche. So
Definitely.
it
Definitely.
could be right around the corner. It could be a few years. So
Yep, yep. We're pushing towards tokenization of real estate too, and that'll be definitely an interesting thing to happen when it does. Definitely.
mhm.
What challenges do leaders face when adopting AI, and how they can overcome them?
That's a really good one. And honestly, I think this applies to even more than just AI. But when you look at leadership and with new initiatives, innovative processes, um, looking at being able to take a hard look at how you do business
Hmm.
and be honest and objective about it, I think is tough because people are very emotionally wrapped around this, these kind of like these identities that they've developed for themselves as to, who they are and how they lead and this and that and the other thing. And it makes it hard for a lot of people to be able to really do a good, honest job of being able to be ready to adopt new technologies or new processes. But I think when you can step back and say, look at, okay, just in look at the numbers, look at reality, look at being objective, don't be emotional about it.
Yeah.
And you can't have any, the problem is where you have things that you really, where if you've got like an emotional tie to how you do things, it's very hard to change those things. It's very hard to look at them, in a not glowing or positive light, and sometimes those are the areas where you find the biggest problems, biggest challenges, or even if it's just because you're so comfortable with doing it, right? So I think for leaders have to be able to step back away from their feelings and kind of it's kind of the emotional aspects of it. I'm not saying you got to be robots. I'm just saying you got to be able to be a little objective because you're looking at
Hmm.
your whole business, right? You're looking at something that's hopefully been going for a while, and you're wanting to look out in the future because if you don't have the vision and the ability, to look down the road and say, okay, where do we need to be in 10 years? You know,
Exactly.
I mean that because that's the reason you're one of the big reasons you're there as a leader is to say, okay, we're steering the ship, right? Everybody else is rowing the oars and making sure everything moves, and you're out there at the rudder, making sure that trying to set that course so that you can get where you need to be. And so, number one, have some vision. Number two, you have to be objective about it. And then I think, probably number three is, uh, 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 you know, try to step back from the industrial revolution mindset that we have when it comes to education and management and processes. Life cannot be fit into a box. People cannot be, you know, squished into little spaces, pull this lever, punch this button. And unfortunately, the way our primary education, secondary education is very much that model, where you teach kids, okay, here's the thing you do here, and it's not why, just how you do it.
Yep.
It's
Black
like
and white.
it's operator. It's like to be an operator, right? As opposed to be someone who understands and thinks and understands the why and how it all connects and works together. So I think, you look at it from a management standpoint, one of the challenges you have is with adoption is not necessarily just the leadership. So you can't adopt anything if your leadership doesn't support it. So
100%. I know
so
that
you
one from
gotta
experience, personal experience.
right, yeah. So you gotta have executive buy-in. You gotta have someone who's going to be a champion for that.
Yep.
And then the second piece is you to be able to adopt it. You have to get your people to believe what you're doing and understand it, and it's not just, you can't have this like, well, you're going to do it because I told you to do it. Like, great. If that's the way you work, don't try to innovate. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're out
Because
there
I said
making
so.
parking lots and, that's how you do it, go make parking lots and be great at making parking lots, right? Uh, uh, if you can't manage that sort of thing and you can't take into account how people think and feel and what motivates them, you'll struggle with this stuff. But I think, if you can, right, and if you've got people who will join you in this endeavor, right, who will come on board and you can get them to buy into it, that gives you the ability to really run. And so, actually, I've got an example just in my company here. We're very small, family-owned small business. We got a handful of people working any given day of the week, and I got my right-hand man now. He's a guy I hired right out of college, trained to be an estimator, and now he's doing business development and all sorts of stuff. And the thing, he's really interested. He's really interested in AI.
Mm-hmm.
He is. And so, Bo was showing me some of this stuff he did. He says, I got this thing here, and we were doing these, and he's like sending me like meeting notes and stuff we got, and they're really cool. And and so for us, we're anything we can do to help reduce the amount of time we spend on like the development side of things or doing analysis is more projects I can work on and build to. So I just cut him loose, and say, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, go find some of the, and what's done is he's developed all of those skills himself because he's really interested in it, and giving him the latitude to go out there and do it. And I think honestly, you got to have some level of training, right? You got to do some kind of training to get people up to the same sort of level where they understand what's going on. So if I've got a new tool and say, we're like your example of the smart contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're going to do blockchain smart contracts. So who are the people who are going to be managing those and helping develop them? We need to get them up to the same kind of level where they understand how to operate the system and that sort of thing, right? And then at that point, that's when you need to give them some latitude and say, hey, tell me how we can do this better. How do we improve this? What are the things that we're not seeing? And having that kind of active feedback where it's, you're encouraging the people that are working with you to take ownership of that sort of thing. I think you have a lot better success, a lot better chances of success. You can't guarantee success. You can just increase your opportunities for it.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And especially with younger folks, you got folks that are coming right out of college, or, been in the industry for 5-10 years or so. They don't think the same way as the leadership does. They're different.
Yes, they are. They definitely are.
And if you make them feel like they matter, and if you actually care about them, it's amazing what they'll do for you.
People definitely will move mountains when they feel valued. That's for sure. And that's in anything, in relationships, in life, in business. Value my effort, value what I bring to the table, and I'm willing to bring more. Like, I'm a very big fan of encouraging the people in my circle and in all aspects, because it's not for selfish reasons, but when you give, it tends to come back. And that's the kind of life that we want to live, right?
100%.
That's awesome.
In this industry, that's what, if you want to innovate, you want to do better, you want to grow, you have to do things that are different.
100%.
I think maybe it's kind of a obvious thing to say, but I think a lot of people miss that.
Well, common sense isn't common anymore. Remember, common sense isn't common anymore.
Yeah. If you want to innovate means different, new. Yeah. Novation. That's to make things that are new, which means you can't do things the same way you've been doing them before and call it innovation.
Yeah. If you keep doing the same things, expecting new results, that's not going to work out.
Yeah. Einstein said that, it was one of his sayings, expecting different results, doing the same thing.
Insanity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And a lot of business owners, I feel like that's what happens. Like, they want bigger and better things, but sometimes they get in their own way because they're comfortable. And I feel like being comfortable is sometimes a stagnant energy. And where you're comfortable, you're not going to really push for growth. You're not really going to do anything that makes you uncomfortable. But I think as a business leader and somebody who's driving the ship, as you said, you have to be uncomfortable. It is a position where you need to be uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, you're on your toes, you're thinking clearly, and you're moving into the next phase of what you need to do. And I think AI is really going to help long-term with how the industry is reshaped. So that brings me to my next kind of question. What advice would you share with industry leaders preparing for AI-driven change, basically in your niche that you're in?
Yeah, that's, I think the first, what you need to do is you need to look at, what are the things that, what are those core functions of what we do? You
Mhm.
know, who are we and what do we do? And, starting with what's your purpose? And, if you're, if you're a, general contractor, that's going to be different than if you're a consultant. It's going to be different than if you're an owner. It's going to be different if you're a supplier or you're somebody else in there. And really have a good feel and hold of who you are as a company and what your purpose is. And then from there, look at what are the things that anyone could do that I do. What are the things that take time, a lot of time,
Manual
and are
time.
there ways I could automate those?
Hmm.
And that's the low hanging fruit right there. I mean, that is really the low hanging fruit. And don't go in thinking you're going to change everything and it's all going to be amazing. All you're going to get all of these huge, oh, we're going to get all this growth and we're going to have all this stuff's going to be so much better and blah 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 blah. Right? Avoid the used car salesman approach, of oh, this is great and perfect, and no, you're going to save all the money and blah blah. Don't oversell it, right?
Hmm.
Start small, and you gotta teach yourself, and that's the secret here. You have to be able to educate yourself. You have to be able to learn how to do it on your own, and if you don't understand it, it's very hard for you to roll that out and to be able to understand where it needs to be used and where it shouldn't be. I mean, because what you'll find is there are certain aspects of your business that are very well suited to be improved with AI tools,
Hmm.
and there are aspects that aren't. you know, um, so and then the other piece of that too is you have to keep a human in the loop
Yep.
at all times.
Yep.
You have to have a person in the loop. You cannot just replace people
It's
with a
supplemental.
chatbot and think that it's gonna work just fine, right? I think one of the problems we have is we tend to anthropomorphize our technology and our pets and inanimate objects and stuff, and we give them human personalities and we try to humanize them, and the problem with chatbots is they make it very easy, because you can have a conversation with one and it feels very
Very
much like
normal.
you're having a conversation with just another person on the internet.
Exactly.
However, you're talking to numbers. You're talking to a whole bunch of calculations and equations,
Programming.
different layers of these different tools. I mean, where it's just, I mean, deep learning is all about, hey, here's the decision number one is this layer. Decision number two is this layer. Do I go here or do I go there? Right? Do I do this or that? And we layer them one on top of the other, until we get this, essentially the way that we think it's a cheap copy of the human brain. But the problem is it sounds so confident, and you're never going to meet anyone in this world who is as confident as a chatbot. And
100%. And it hallucinates people. It
they
hallucinates.
do, they hallucinate, and they
And if you
don't
don't
even need
know what you're
drugs for it,
asking,
man.
yep.
I mean, just,
If you don't know what you're looking at and you're trying to develop something new and you've never done it before, that chatbot could hallucinate to you and you can completely create a whole system off of something that's not correct. So, yes, I would never replace humans 100% with AI. You always got to have accountability somewhere. Somewhere. There has to be human accountability because there is an edge to what we know. I mean, we obviously, like you said, it's a layered machine and we are an
yeah,
organic machine that has all
yeah,
the experiences that it has not. So,
yeah.
definitely agree with that. So we got a little bit more time here. You want to go into you're currently teaching project management, correct?
Yeah, so I teach. Heavy civil project management at the University of Oklahoma. Do one class a year, and really
Nice.
enjoy it. Do it's an upper division slash listed with grad students. So I make my grad students do a good literature review paper, and and then everybody else, we teach them how to find work and then put bids together and win them. So it's a lot of fun. Kind of focused on the DOT space, but then from on the business side, we do a lot of continuing education and professional development training.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, through American Society of Civil Engineers. So we've got a long relationship with them. We're kind of one of their go-to instructors when it comes to, construction engineering management, project delivery, estimating, scheduling, risk management, that kind of stuff. So we do. We got some of our best clients. We start out, teaching, doing training for them on how do you do design build. How do you do construction management risk delivery? What about, program management, that sort of stuff. And so, like our current, one of our base clients right now is the FAA. And we're helping them develop their design build program for air traffic control towers.
Nice.
Yeah. So they've got, I think they're up to like 40 now. Doing those nationwide at the more small like regional airports that either need new air traffic control towers or need to renovate existing ones. So helping them figure out how to do it. They only did one design build project before, and so we helped them kind of develop that program over the last few years. And started out with doing some training, and broke it up, like 6 weeks online, remote, and ran like 150 people through it, and so it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I love, and you can't tell, I love talking to people.
That's an awesome project. It seems like it'd be like a lot of fun to do stuff like that. Like, honestly, like definitely different from the residential and commercial space that I'm used to dealing with. But,
yeah. I mean, I really like, the infrastructure is a lot of fun, to me, just because, you look at the impact that it has, and, if you're working on like roads and bridges or airports or stuff like, water, wastewater, power, it's stuff that benefits everyone, and what I really like about the capital side of it, in program development is you get to help kind of move the needle on some pretty big projects, so it's like we helped the Canal Authority in Panama with putting their contracts together for the last canal expansion.
That's crazy. That's an awesome thing to work on. You know what I mean? Like, that's an awesome thing to just add to your resume of awesome things.
Yeah, it's like you're checking off the bucket list of, I just want to go see it, but we got to work on it. And I mean, it's a lot of fun. So, we do a lot of stuff like that. We've worked with Georgia DOT on their major mobility corridor program since 2016. We've got some other ones we're doing. Like right now, actually, probably the one that's eating this, I'm spending most of my time on here is in Oklahoma. We're helping ODOT do their very first alternative delivery project. So it's a
nice
mile-long bridge, about 2 miles total with causeway over Lake Texoma. It's going to be the biggest single procurement in state history, and we're doing it in a modified progressive design build. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome to hear. It's always fun to have exciting projects to work on. And it's like, it's never the same thing twice. That's why I love construction. That's why I like project management. You could do 1,000 homes and every single one's different. You could do 1,000 projects and everyone has its nuances, challenges, and things you get to overcome. That's always been a strong point for construction for me.
I couldn't agree more. I think what's great about it. You look at projects and, so like PMI, Project Management Institute, their PMBOK, their definition of project, literally the word is unique in there. I believe it's twice. And so, they're unique, and it doesn't matter if they're the same thing. Like, like doing a fine home building, you can approach it from an industrial, standpoint, where it's like, hey, we've got this, we're trying to do track homes. And I'm trying to optimize my path of my subcontractors and suppliers going through here, so I can, just get these things done.
Production.
And we can use like linear scheduling and other stuff like that. But even so, they're on a different site. You may have different people. And they're all different. They could be the same thing, but different weather, different market conditions. So they're always complex.
Different inspectors.
Oh gosh, don't start there.
That's always the fun one. I love the grumpy old men. I love the grumpy old men because I break them down. Like that's my favorite thing. Like they're so mean. The mean inspectors. I usually make friends out of them after the whole fact is done. But those are my
Yep.
favorite. Give me the most obstinate inspector and we will be friends by the end of it. But awesome.
That's how you
Well,
deal with inspectors, honestly.
I'm telling you, I have broken some down in my day. I have broken some down. And I was like, listen, either we're going to go out back and fight or we're going to figure this out. Like, which one is it? And usually by then they laugh at me. So,
When I was working for the university as a capital projects manager for this, we had this guy. He was he was the electrical inspector, and he'd been an electrician in I think the Marine Corps in Vietnam.
oh,
And he
geez.
was a hoot, man, and he was an
Hard.
absolute. He had his little like OD Green toolkit from like the Marine Corps, and he had the screw that had the screwdriver with like a brass tip and a spring on it. And if you got that thing out, forget it. He's gonna test everything he can
Wow.
find. So our strategy was always, because I'm a combat vet too, is I'd go over there and we start talking war stories. And
Oh my God. We're all the same. I swear to God. I swear to God. I don't have any veteran background. Thank you for your service, by the way. But I have definitely done the walk, talk, and distract to like you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, let's just get through it. It's properly built. Don't pick me apart.
Yeah. I mean, and you get some of that stuff too, where it's like, some people just enjoy being difficult.
Oh yes.
And they seem to gravitate to certain kinds of professions. But so
They do.
if you're a good inspector, a reasonable one, I'm not gonna employ any of my dirty tricks. But
yeah, right.
if you're just here to make my life hard,
there are
I got a couple of tools in my bag.
Being a young female in construction, I have definitely gotten the power plays a couple of times. But it's fun. It's fun. But at this time, I'd like to invite you just to speak about your company and give some information about how to get in contact with you or any special projects that you have going on. Anything that you'd like to share with the audience. Now's your time.
Yeah, no, thanks. We're Gransberg Associates is we're like I mentioned earlier, we're a family-owned small consultancy. We're based out of Central Oklahoma. We're service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. So my father started us in '96 after he retired from the Army Corps of Engineers and went to academia and started consulting on the side because he had a 9-month academic contract. He was teaching at Texas Tech. In the summers, he'd go bid projects with highway contractors, and that turned into doing some training and then consulting. And then, my sister-in-law and I convinced him to move back down here to Norman. He had an endowed sheriff at Iowa State. And we went into business with him about 6 years ago. And
Nice.
So we've grown the company. We have a partner firm in Panama, a bunch of former Canal Authority engineers who are honestly some of the best engineers in the world come out of Panama.
Awesome.
And so we're sort of a unicorn. We do a lot of continuing education, professional development training. I teach probably 70% of the construction engineering coursework for American Society of Civil Engineers.
Nice.
And then we do a lot of their outside of house stuff too. So we specialize in mega projects, alternative delivery, risk management. We do claims support. So that's another one actually where I've used some of these tools is doing analysis on claims. So we've had ones where looking at a schedule, hey, you owe us 6 months and here's what it is. And, we go in there and find out that, these are, concurrent delays. So they're stacked up. They're not all sequential, and say, okay, well, actually it looks like it's only 2 months, and here's what it is. And so that stuff's a lot of fun. We do expert witness work. And then also we do some federally funded research on a fairly regular basis. So
Nice.
Right now I'm the principal investigator on a national collaborative highway research project looking at construction contingency practices used by the DOTs. So we're in the middle of the survey phase right now, and hopefully we get enough responses here for the NCHRP folks to give us the go ahead to proceed into the analysis. But
That's awesome.
yeah, so we do a lot of interesting stuff, and I think probably our sales pitch is that we have the folks we have on staff have have a combination of both extensive construction experience as well as high level education degrees and academics. So we got 3 PhDs on staff, a bunch of folks with master's degrees. Everybody's got muddy boots, and then also knows how to crunch numbers and do research and train, and it's a lot of fun. I think consulting in my mind is the American dream. I get to work with all sorts of different interesting people. I get to choose my clients.
Key.
Yeah, and it's really satisfying because I really enjoy. Because we work with all sorts of different folks. Like we consulted with subcontractors, helping them figure out how to roll out some tools for just improving the project management processes, all the way up to helping like we built the Fish and Wildlife Services design build program.
Nice.
We developed it along with all of their their high level estimate. We built the estimating tools to give them good high level planning processes. We took their time that it takes from being able to identify an issue that needs to be turned, into a project from 2 years down to 6 months.
That's awesome.
Just by automating some of those processes, by having here's your standard performance specs, here's some standard scopes, and giving them the tools to be able to really quickly get up to a 60-70% solution, and then get down the road, right? So, and it's like I said, it's. The elevator pitch is tough.
It's good.
We do all sorts of different
stuff.
You
guys do so much stuff. I just wanted the listeners to get like a really good grasp on, basically the Swiss Army knife of stuff that you guys are into. It's awesome. I haven't really enjoyed our time today. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your knowledge, sharing your insight into AI technology, what it's doing, where it's going, and your openness to it. I appreciate you being on the show. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to the podcast. If you're ready to explore how AI can help streamline your own operations, visit Convertium.ai to see how we're helping construction and asset management leaders standardize processes, reduce inefficiencies, and also grow smarter. Thanks again. Stay safe out there, and have a wonderful day.